This podcast is brought to you by Blackaby Ministries International. To find out more, visit blackaby.org.
Welcome to the Richard Blackaby Leadership Podcast. My name is Sam, and I'm your host, and I'm joined, as always, by Dr. Richard Blackaby.
Well, thanks for having me, Sam.
So good for you to join us. Fit us in your busy schedule, Richard. And,
it's getting busier.
Yeah. You've had a couple of trips canceled recently, and so I know there's a lot of
this Delta
still fear and anxiety over the COVID-19, but you've got a pretty busy travel schedule coming up here, and so we like to squeeze these in here where we can. And we did this once before, but I think we called it Leadership Potpourri.
Yeah,
that was
class.
That was your your touch on that.
That's a little classy touch of mine. Yeah,
on that naming. Yeah. But so we're gonna take two at this, and you know, as we work and live, we have random ideas, and you have thoughts on leadership, and so this is going to just kind of be a Richard Blackaby leadership dump, and just sort of a brain dump.
I use potpourri. You use dump. Like let's class up your language here.
Yeah, no, I was thinking more of a truck, that unloads just a hodgepodge of various and a sundry items loosely related to the topic of leadership, and so that's I'll just stop there. And
I think you've dug deep enough there, Sam.
Yes. So with that being said, with that glamorous introduction, I'll let you.
Stop!
I'll let you take it the rest of the way.
Yeah, Sam. I was thinking, and by the way, I pulled a couple of my biographies out. I know people always say they really enjoy those, and so I'm going to just sort of review a couple of those, and so some upcoming episodes here will.
Yeah, well, you I think some of your influence is finally wearing off on me. I've started the tome of Truman's biography by David McCullough.
Good for you.
And so it's fascinating.
It was considered. It may still be considered the best presidential biography written, like just as far as its thoroughness and interest and so on.
Well, I'm doing it on audiobook, and it's 52 hours, and so I know it's a monster, but it's super, super interesting, and there's so many things in it that I feel like are, again, relevant today.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're not here for that. We're here for your random thoughts.
Random thoughts. Well, let me just mention a couple things. And, as I go through life and get feedback from people and just kind of measure my effectiveness in leading, now and then I'll just kind of stop and think, you have to be observing your own life. In one sense, you have to kind of, as Heifetz said, you have to kind of get into the balcony and sort of look down on yourself and say, so what am I learning just watching me and what I do and what works and what doesn't work and what seems to pay off and bear fruit and what doesn't. And so, even just in the last week or two, I've just done a number of things that I sort of took a mental note to think, that's just important, or that really has benefited me. So some of these are I know a lot of the people, or many of the people who listen to this podcast, and just knowing some of the ones I know who listen, they know a lot of this stuff already. So none of this may be profound to you, but some things just, I think now and then you just need to stop and just kind of mark it and say, yeah, I know this, but it's good just to nail this down to say, this is one of those things I need to just do.
Yeah, we all forget at times.
So the first one I would just say is just notice the little things, or at least it can be seemingly little, because they add up. Little things add up.
Yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you about that ant infestation that I...
Yeah, the little things.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll let you.
Thank you. That's it. So, like, for instance, there are some people that remember people's birthdays. And, one of the things I do I do look. I'll look typically on Facebook each day, and one of the things it'll do is it'll just remind me of who had a birthday that day.
Yeah.
And I try. If it's someone that I know, like there'll be names that'll pop up. I don't remember who they are. I've friended them at some point, but I don't necessarily relate to them, but know them personally. But then if it's someone that I know, even if I haven't seen him for a while, I'll try. And this is just a thing, and I think I mentioned it before, but I try not to just write happy birthday, And if you look at someone's Facebook post on their birthday, it's just a whole lot of happy birthday, which is nice. You at least thought of the person. But I feel like that's also an opportunity to extend a blessing, to actually say something that you would pray for them, that you would hope for, and something that gives some thought. Perhaps it may be just something that you're saying that this year, this is kind of what I'm praying for a lot of my friends, or it might be that that person, something that's special to them, and you personalize it. But that takes time. And I know people that complain that it takes way too long and takes way too much time. And, I'm not a fast typist. I have to peck away at that. So it's not like it's easy to do. It doesn't take inordinate amount of time. There's usually maybe 3 or 4 people a day that are a little closer to me that I might do that for. But I'll tell you, I don't know how many times I'll get someone that will write back a response, like, oh, wow, that would be awesome, or thank you for that, or I'd never thought about that, but that would be, wonderful. And same with anniversaries. Some people, I don't know, I don't get as much into that, but sometimes people are celebrating major anniversaries, or it might just be 1 year, but that first year is important. And to take a moment just to personalize it in some way, just to think for a moment of something you would wish or pray for, and then take time to pray right then. Just take a moment and pray that prayer, that wish for the person. Same for their anniversary, to say something. And you might know that they've gone through a hard year. Maybe they had COVID, or they had a medical issue. And then again, just also remembering people's names. And I'm bad at that. And I'm only bad at it because I just don't try hard enough. I don't concentrate enough. But there are times where if I'm maybe someone's interviewing me on a podcast or a radio program, or maybe I just met someone, or maybe it's just the person serving me at the restaurant. But you don't want to overdo it, but to have noticed them enough to remember their name, like that means a lot. And I know some people who do it, and it's almost like they're showing off, and they use
it's
the
like their
person's name.
shtick, it's like, oh, you're just the
Betty,
name guy.
Thanks, Betty. Betty, that's great. But it's like that gets
seem
old.
insincere.
Yeah.
If you
but if you
it.
just at the end of the evening you just mention their name, it usually blows people away that you remembered them.
Especially in a context where they wouldn't expect you to remember their name.
And there are times where like people will come up to me, maybe I've spoken somewhere or something, and they come up afterward and they just want to thank me or say something, and I don't really need to know what their name is. Like, they don't expect me to email them later or anything. But there are times where I'll just say, no, tell me your name. And I may not remember it 2 weeks later, but in that moment, I'm trying to say you're a person of value. You have a name. You're a person of eternal worth as well. And those little things, you could look at any number of those things and think, well, I don't know if that made a huge difference or not. But it does over time, and you begin to. I think it also just is a great exercise. For me, when I do that, it's making me practice caring, and that can sound kind of insincere, but it's just like a lot of other things. It's like running. I make myself go running, whether I feel like it or not. You can say, well, you're insincere. Well, maybe I am, but it's making me healther by doing that. But
you're doing it.
And I think the same, there's some things that naturally don't happen for us, but I think by disciplining yourself to be a thoughtful, observant person, it will make you a more naturally observant person and thoughtful. And at the same time, it's going to be blessing people, whether it came naturally or not, the fact that you made the effort. And so So just notice the little things. And I have spent a lot of time trying to figure out why one leader seems to have more success than another leader. And oftentimes they've got the same intelligence, same, a lot of things the very same.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it just comes down to the little things. This person just has better people skills. This person just endears himself to his staff, and this person seems to alienate or just make people indifferent to them. And why is that? Those little edges that some people have as leaders, they add up over time. So one of them is certainly just notice the little things. And a second one that is related to that is take moments to demonstrate concern. And again, some of that's just like what I said, showing concern by giving a message and so on, and showing interest. But I thought of that this week. I'll tell you, this is just sort of a thing with me. I'm busy. I never lack a dozen things I could be doing at any given time.
Yeah.
I've got stacks of books and things to do sitting on my desk, to write or to read or to review or whatever. But now and then, a thought will come to my mind. A person may come to my mind, and I've just learned. Yeah, now you have to be careful because you can become just completely distracted all day long. But I've learned to kind of trust the Holy Spirit that if all of a sudden a person comes to mind, stop for a moment and think, what do I need to do about that? And so this week I was on a Zoom call earlier this week, and someone asked me about a CEO that I know that has been going through some really challenging times health-wise, and this guy's basically been kind of homebound for an extended period of time, and I mean like months of time, and this guy in times past was larger than life. You always knew he was in the room. A great guy, everybody loved him, but he's really been kind of out of sight for a while now, and people are busy, people move on. And so so I've tried, periodically, I'll just pick up the phone and call this person and just check up on him. I sort of have I want to make the effort to make him laugh, at least for a moment, and just brighten his day. Don't take too long, but encourage him, tell him, I really want him to know that I've thought of him, that I miss him, that I hope that he'll be back out in action soon. And so this week I was on a call with a different CEO, and he just said, hey, have you talked to that guy lately? And I realized it had been maybe a month since I'd called him. And so after the call, now this guy is kind of brought back to my attention. And so I kind of have him in my mind. And then a little bit later in the day, I'm in between two different projects, and I just think, before I start the next project, I'm just going to call the guy. And so I call, it's ringing, and I just about hung up, and then he answers. And it's obvious he's looked on his call display, knows it's me, and he's answered. And so we just had the greatest conversation. And I let him know, I said, I miss you. I care about you. I really want you to get better. Keep working at that rehab and so on, and get yourself healthy. And we laughed, and I just said, I know, and I sort of got the impression that not a lot of people have called him or made the effort. We think of people, but then we just think, oh, I wonder where haven't seen him for a while.
Hope he's doing all right.
Yeah, but they don't know that you thought of him, and but just making that extra effort, because I've had people like that. If I was going through a hard time or something, and then eventually I see someone again, and they'll say, oh, I wondered where you were. It's like, oh, great. Well,
not enough to call you.
That was really encouraging, but that you wondered about me.
You passed in my mind a couple times.
And so, I've just learned to trust that whether it's your instinct, whether it's your conscience, or whether it's really the Holy Spirit just bringing someone to your mind.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and I'm not a big phone guy. Like, I'm far more inclined to email you or maybe to text you, but to pick up the phone, I don't really like to do that. But there's some people that's just how it has to be, and especially in this stage of their life. And so, I talked to him, and after you get off those calls, you're really glad you did it. You're just like, I'm really glad I took the time. Like I'm reminded how much I like that guy, and I'm just so glad. I feel like maybe I just brought a little bit of cheer in his life, and he knows today that at least one person is thinking about him and made the effort to call and check in. So,
well, I don't know anyone who's ever regretted, taking a few minutes out of their day to bless somebody else.
Yeah.
Like after you do that, even, maybe you had a big impact on their life, but almost without fail, that's going to have an impact on your life. Just the way that you feel about doing the right thing.
You just always, I think that's the way God wired us, just to feel better after we've done the right thing. One other example is, again, it doesn't have to be a huge thing, but it means that you notice people and you notice how they're doing. And so, like, I've had times over the years where maybe our staff went through a really challenging time. Maybe it was when I ran a seminary and we had gone through trustee meetings and graduation or accreditation visits and some real stressful time. And so it's Friday at lunchtime, and there's been times as the boss I've just sort of pronounced and said, you know what, like, let's just wrap this thing up. You guys need to go home early today. Why don't you guys just wrap it up here and take the afternoon off? Go. You guys worked hard. You need a break. Well, like, probably giving people, unless, I don't know what business you're in, but most businesses can survive. And I'm not saying you necessarily give the whole afternoon. Give an hour off early. It's you normally you shut down at 4:30, and at 3:00 you just say, hey guys, why don't you just go home? Why don't you just cut it off early? It's an hour and a half. But what that says is the boss knows we worked hard this week, and just maybe a token way, he's trying to say, I appreciate what you do, and I want to bless you in some way. So just taking moments to demonstrate you actually care by doing something that actually is a reward, it meets a need, it blesses people in some way. A third thing I would say is just rise earlier. And we've talked again about this as well, but suppose that you just began getting up 15 minutes earlier than you normally do. And those 15 minutes, you decided just to invest in your quiet time or just prayer. 15 minutes of prayer each morning that you weren't praying before. Or 15 minutes of reading a Christian classic that just really challenges and blesses you. Again, small things add up. And so that's not, most people can handle 15 minutes more. It may feel brutal when you're getting up, but your body can sustain 15 minutes. You might want to do that each year for the next 4 years. And all of a sudden you're getting up an hour earlier. And now that's really adding up. But don't ever underestimate the power that is available to you to just tweak a little bit more productive time out of your day. Now, don't just get up 15 minutes earlier and then just groan in front of your coffee for 15 more minutes. Be proactive about it. But again, if you're trying to look at ways just to perhaps get a little bit more punch out of your day, out of your leadership, your time is the most valuable thing you have. Yeah. And so tweak that a little bit, squeeze out even 15 more minutes. 15 more minutes a day used wisely. That's adding up to an hour and 15 minutes in a 5-day week. Now that's you can get some stuff done there. Yeah. If it's just even listening to or reading a book that you didn't have time to before. But and so a fourth thing I would just say, and again, this is one of my pet peeves, but increase your responsivity, and that is when there are opportunities, when there are messages, be quick to respond, or at least be quicker than you have been. My inbox is typically empty. When we started this podcast, it was empty. When I finish this podcast, probably one of the first things I'll do is check my inbox and empty it again. But if people are asking me, hey, could you come and speak at this event? Or, hey, will this work out? Or do you want to use this? Or should we go this way? Why would I leave you hanging for 2 days or 3 days before I answer that email? Especially if it's staff that are waiting on me to approve something or give it the thumbs up or down. Like, why would I leave you hanging? And so, Sam, you don't usually have to wait all that long unless I'm just in the air somewhere and don't have Wi-Fi access or something. But as soon as I can be at my desk or even just looking at my phone, and I think I've shared this before, but if I land somewhere on an airplane, I've turned on my cell phone and I've answered most of the pressing emails before we get to the gate. And now you can move on. You keep going. And so. And so whether that's answering emails, whether that's just following through, I've been in meetings at times and I've talked to people. I was in a meeting earlier this week where I met a person over dinner, and he threw a possibility out for me, just something he would love for me to be involved with. And so when I got home kind of late, but the next morning, I'm sending him a message and adding his contact information into mine and saying, "Hey, listen, just want to follow up while it's fresh, in my mind." And I don't know how many times people have been in meetings, they've heard of possibilities, but then a week or two went by, and now it's kind of cold, and you're trying to, where's that guy's business card, and what was his email, and trying to remember just what that was about, and same with when you start a project. I pride myself most of the time, if I can, I try to beat deadlines. If this thing is due on the 1st of the month, I tried by the 20th of the previous month to turn it in early, and just have a reputation for that. I can't always do that, but I love doing that. I strive for that. And you're more likely to finish something early if you get started right away. There are some people that if they've got 30 days to do a project, they think about 25 days in, it's like, okay, well, I guess I should get going on that. I tend to want to sit down on day one and start sketching it out and be percolating over it and thinking about it and maybe jotting down stuff that is some low-lying fruit, and before you know it, it's just done. And you're only at the 15th of the month, not the 30th, and or whatever. So, but what that does is it's not that it just gets stuff done quicker. It builds a reputation. I mean, if I've got to give work out to someone, and this guy, I know I'll probably have to hound him for about a week after it was due to get it, and this guy is going to be on it, and probably 10 days early, it'll already be done and wrapped and sitting on my desk. Yeah. Well, you know who I'm going to go ask to get it done, and so if I'm looking to promote someone, if I'm looking to give someone more responsibility, you're going to go to the one that gets on stuff, gets it done. I just can't, if I've got to hound someone to answer my emails, I'm just going to go get someone else to work with. I can't stand that. If I've got something I need from you, I want to hear from you, and I don't slow me down. Right now I've got some time to work on this, and I'm sitting here waiting for you to answer an email I sent 3 days ago. So I don't think some people understand that. I think there's some people that are just kind of laid back, and they'll get to it when they get to it. And then they wonder why other people are getting so many opportunities, and people are wanting to come to them with their ideas and, to other people, but not them. And oftentimes it just comes down to how responsive are you? How quickly do you get on stuff? And, depending on your industry and what you do, but there are competitors, and there are people that will be very responsive. And, if you're looking for a realtor and one realtor takes 3 days to get back and answer your question, and someone else is within 20 minutes is answering every question you have, well, you know who you're going to use. Yeah. And so, again, if you just want to kind of ramp up your leadership effectiveness, just get more responsive than you have been. However responsive you are, try to be even more so. Yeah.
Well, let's take a quick break here, and then we'll pick up when we come back. This fall, Blackaby Ministries is hosting 2 spiritual leadership coaching workshops. One in the Atlanta area, and the other is fully online. The focus of these workshops are learning how to ask the right questions to help move people onto God's agenda. The online workshop is September 13th through the 15th, and the in-person workshop is October 21st through the 23rd. To find out more and to register, visit blackabycoaching.org. Links will be in the show notes. Well, Richard, I know you've got quite a few more left here before we wrap up, but we'll see how many we can get through, and we may just have to do another one of these. But
boy, yeah,
I think we can blitz.
I'll try to plow ahead. Okay, fifth thing is be positive. Just be positive. I'll tell you again, if I've got people sitting around a board table and I'm trying to work on a problem, or I'm trying to delegate, assign a project, I've got someone who's a naysayer. It won't work. What about this? What about that? And I've got someone else who's positive and okay, well, what do we? Well, let's get this figured out. Again, you know who you're going to go to.
Yeah.
And so I just want to encourage people. Just take a positive outlook to your work. If you can't be positive about your work, get a different line of work. Find somewhere, go where else.
Yeah.
But hopefully you've got some confidence and positivity about what you do. And a related one, sixth thing is, again, just strive for excellence. Whatever you do, just do it well. I know people, and sadly, it seems like it's almost becoming an increasing thing in society today, where you just do the minimum. You just do the least amount, and and I know people that are just wired that way. They just and I hear so many stories these days of people that almost resent the fact that they have to do their job and that they have to actually do it according to standards. That's all I had time to do. I didn't feel like it, or I just wasn't having a good day, and so as if that's in any way a valid excuse.
Yeah.
I'll tell you again, if you just want lots of doors open in your life, just develop the reputation of always doing things with excellence. Just always do a little extra thought. Sometimes it could be as simple as putting a nice cover on your report. Here's the report, but one person went ahead and put it in an attractive presentation. The other person just gave the cold hard facts, or there's just so many ways that when you look at someone's work, you just know that person went the extra mile, put a little extra effort into it, and that just pays off. And it may actually help you stand out more than it ever has, because there's a lot of people not doing that these days. A seventh thing is just look for ways to do things better the next time. And you may have done it really well this time, but just constantly, even as you're turning in a report or project, whatever it is you're finishing up, take a moment afterward and reflect and say, could that have been better? I mean, that actually was pretty good, but if we'd had a better microphone, if we had done it this way, if we'd used that program, that software, I wonder if it wouldn't have even been better still. I'm going to just try next time. And, you do a lot of that, Sam, where you're always kind of thinking, well, it may involve more hardware we need to buy, or software, but
usually
better
does.
camera, or light or something.
No, I just some things we did for coaching just came to mind. We just filmed some stuff for our coaching ministry, and when you've spent hours with the edit, it's like, I think if I had to do this again, I would change a couple things. But.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, what you did was good, but I'm suspecting the next time we do something like that, it's going to be better still. Yeah. And part of that just, of course, it helps you job-wise. It makes you look great. It makes you very valuable. It makes you more susceptible to get raises and promotions and other things. But it also, I think, just there's something it does to your soul.
Yeah.
If you're being slipshod and careless and doing and minimalist in your effort, it just eats your soul out. Like you just become a hollow person that has no pride in your own work and what you do. And so going that extra mile and thinking about, well, how could it still be better the next time, gives you something to keep growing into.
Yeah.
And just a couple simple things. Another one, eighth thing, is just don't be cheap. And that's kind of a funny thing. But I know some people that their greatest joy and pride in life is how to spend the least amount of money possible. And I'm not saying that you take pride in overpaying for something, but I know people that literally would go all the way around the world just to save $10 on something, and that they might have wasted a ton of time, but at least they saved a few dollars. And where I see that also is just in the way that you relate to other people. I mean, whether you're being cheap in your thanks, your attention, there's just a lot of ways where you can be kind of stingy, and I kind of noticed this last year. I have a lot of people ask me to do stuff for them, to write maybe a review of their book or a foreword or different things that they'll ask me to do. Could you be on this podcast or something? And I do a lot of that, and that's fine. And a lot of those things I don't expect necessarily to be paid anything for it. I'm just helping them out. But I remember last year, there was like several people that just totally caught me by surprise. One person sent a donation to our ministry after I'd been on their podcast, and I'm thinking, wow, like that was really classy. Like I did not expect that. It really blessed us, and I'll tell you what, it just made me a big fan of theirs, and willing to do anything I could. Not that I always expected to get paid, but it's just like they were very generous toward me, and so I want to be generous toward them. And someone else, I forget, I did like a book forward or something, or maybe just an endorsement. And then they sent me this beautiful knife, that it's like one of my favorite knives now to use. And like, I remember just showing everybody, saying, look at this. Like, and I've done this same kind of work for lots of other people and never got a knife before, and it's like, it's just sort of classy. Some people, you do a little podcast for them, and it's no big deal, but I have people that will send me stuff, and you just realize, wow, like that's thoughtful. Like they, I knew that they appreciated the time I gave them, and they said thank you at the time. But, if you just if you just learn to be kind of classy and relating to people, again, you can't necessarily just have a direct correlation to say, oh yeah, I got a promotion because I always send a thank you card, or I send a $25, Amazon gift certificate. But just having that reputation and those kind of people skills will pay off in the long run. The ninth thing is just hold your tongue. There are just there's a couple times, even recently, where I said
careers have been saved.
Oh boy,
just holding your tongue.
And the other day I kind of kicked myself because they asked me a question, and I even said to them, I don't usually even just kind of talk about that, or it might have been just some kind of personal question about something that is just an area of conflict, like who did you vote for or something. Not for the presidential election, but it was something else. And and my instinct said, I probably just, I can't see any gain for this, especially if I didn't do what they did. But I think they pushed me enough that I finally just acknowledged, what I had done, and what I'd done, there was nothing wrong with it. It's just that afterward, it began to dawn on me that probably isn't what they did. And again, this can sound, it's sort of nebulous here, but it just didn't add any value. Like, I didn't have to tell them that, and they would have understood. I could have just said, that's probably just better not say or something. And then of course there's just other times where you just think stuff and it's not necessarily very kind, and in your heart, anytime you're going to gossip or badmouth someone, it's probably not beneficial. It's not going to help you to do that. Yeah. And so when you get to that point, sometimes it's just less is more. And so again, I would say to some folks, sometimes it's just their humor, or they're teasing, poking fun at someone. There are just moments where if you had not said that, you'd be farther down the road right now. But you said more than you should have. And really, if you thought for a moment, you'd realize there's no gain to be had by making that comment and, stirring things up. And certainly when it comes to polarizing kinds of issues, that you're either you might make some friends who all agree with you and say, yeah, that's how I feel. But you're just as likely to also have people upset with you. And do you need that? So maybe just the last one is just, one thing I just, maybe one other to say is just develop resilience. And that is, just get back on your feet. Don't, because we're all going to get knocked down. And I was thinking about last year, I think now I'm up to about 71 canceled trips because of COVID. And, I'm looking at some others. I'm worried that there may be a big one canceled next week that I'm holding out on. And just had one this week. I was supposed to be going out this Friday, and as a meeting that got canceled because of COVID. And so, you can get frustrated. It's, that was going to be such a big meeting, and there was going to be so many people, and that would have been such great exposure.
Yeah. You can fixate on the stuff you did.
But now it's done. And so, you instead just sees you can be disappointed, obviously, but then instead of fixating on that, pivot quickly and say, so what am I going to do with this weekend that's free now? In fact, I've got a big meeting next week that I'm a little concerned is vulnerable to being canceled. And so I talked to a friend of mine. He's got a cabin up in the mountains, and I've been really trying to take Lisa, my wife, there just a couple of days just to get away. We're kind of getting near the end of the summer and haven't really done a lot of that. And so I said to this guy, I don't have any free time to do that right now. But if this meeting gets canceled, that would be about the only time we could just get away for a couple of days. So I said, would you mind penciling this in? And if this cancels, I'm going to be disappointed for about a minute, and then I'm going to call you up and we're going to go to the mountains. And so, when last year, when all my trips got canceled, I ended up doing a ton of writing, probably more writing than I'd done in a long time. And I thought I could either bemoan the fact that I didn't get out speaking as much, or I could be excited about knocking off several books and rewrites and so on. And so while you're kind of still shuffling about, groaning about and upset and about something that, you got passed over for a promotion, you didn't get thanked, you didn't get that bonus you were hoping for, someone else was given that assignment. You could be upset about that, or you could sort of roll up your sleeves and say, okay, well, how can I better myself? How can I make use of this time? And maybe next time the opportunity will come around. And I think in this COVID kind of filled time in which we're in, we're going to have some disappointments for sure. Yeah. And some can be pretty major ones, but no matter how major they are, don't let it just keep you on the mat, and just develop. And I know some people that just have the hardest time letting go. They'll just, months later, they're still letting people know how frustrated they were about this. And other people have long since moved on. And so develop that sense of resilience where you maybe have a good cry for a minute, and then you say, all right, I'm moving on. And we were just talking about this, but so many of the famous leaders in history had so many setbacks, so many failures, and yet they were resilient. They picked, like Truman, you mentioned, gets up and keeps moving on, and ultimately experiences a lot of success. So that's not just a human trait that either you have it or you don't. You can develop resilience. Right. And so anyway, that's kind of a quick list. I left a few out, but we'll have to maybe do another one of these. But sometimes
I suspect we will.
Just thinking about, what is the difference that makes some people so successful and so popular, and that makes people drawn to them and want them involved and want to have them around them and in roles of leadership. And what is it that kind of causes people to be passed over and to miss out on opportunities? And oftentimes it's some of the basics in human relations and how you conduct yourself. And so even though we know all these things, it never hurts just to kind of do a quick review and say, but I know these things, but I think I've gotten careless in a couple of them. And this is a time to be at your best. So brush up and polish up and be the best version of you in the days to come.
Well, what I love about this list, Richard, is it's all stuff that you have control over, and they're all things that you can do. None of these things are necessarily inherent or genetic. But they're all things that we can focus in on one or two and see success in those areas. So, again, thanks for taking the time, and until next time.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If this is something you enjoyed, it really makes a difference if you leave a review and a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. We always love hearing from our listeners, so email us at podcast@blackaby.org.